Okay, so back for another episode out of the box. I've got a few things that I want to run through this week. So first of all, a little bit about what I've been reading in book club and how I've been implementing that from a leadership point of view. Then second of all, I'm going to run through a little bit of like the ugliness and stuff I'm learning from that. And then thirdly, some thoughts for what we're trying to do going forward. So yeah, first of all, book club. So in book club, we've been talking about Scale X, book by Brendan McGurgan. And, you know, part of this is we're being pitched to potentially go on the Scale X program, and it's something we're debating right now. But the book itself is pretty good, and it goes through essentially 10 things you need to do to scale a business. And we are now just finished the first 2 chapters. In the second one, it talks about, I guess, vision and purpose. And so vision is something that we have been working on, and we had it numerically, and I think I've alluded to this previously on other episodes, but like we've now written out essentially what I think is a moonshot goal and then a vision statement, which I believe we can hit within 3 years. And that ties into the numbers that we've had previously. But one part that really has gone kind of unforeseen in the past is this idea of purpose. So when they allude to purpose, they believe that you should tie it into one of the sustainable development goals that the UN publishes, i.e. doing something good beyond just making profit. Now, this can be tough because, well, we sell a product that isn't a fundamental use. You know, it is excess spend is what people buy our product with. So how do we create something, a purpose that is fitting to, you know, the human development goals are like poverty, food, sustainability in terms of like recycling. And those are kind of tough to fit within our product. And so we discussed it a good bit, and the suggestion we arrived at was shirts for all. So mystery shirts for all. So not only are we trying to sell them to, yes, everybody in the UK, US, Australia and New Zealand and further beyond, but we're also putting mystery shirts on the backs of people in Africa or in third world countries that just cannot afford a mystery shirt or cannot afford a football shirt. So I need to define a little bit better the slogan, and I need to define what exactly that looks like as a monthly or a quarterly commitment. But that is something we're going to move towards now going forward. And I'm excited to unveil that as a kind of company aim at our midsummer meetup. And so the midsummer meetup, and this ties in nicely, will be a good opportunity to refresh. So at the start of the year, we did a yearly meetup, and you kind of reflect on what's happened in the previous 12 months. Now 12 months is a long period of time. So the kind of feedback was, can we do this every 6 months? And so we're doing that now in summer. So after the World Cup's all over, we're going to sit down and be like, what can we learn from previous? What can we apply going forward? And then I'm going to feed in a few bits that I think from a leadership point of view I want to really embed, and the purpose is one of them. So I'm excited for that. It's interesting because the book talks about how having purpose can motivate staff and motivate yourself beyond just always chasing the next dime. For a long time, I feel like we've had to do something a bit more than just trying to make a profit on every top. But it's tough to define what that is. I was thinking, because it touches on, it should be something close to your passions. One of my passions is empowering young people, but it's hard to tie in jerseys to empowering young people. I think that's maybe an internal priority and purpose, is that when we're hiring, we're empowering. But yeah, it was an interesting kind of discussion we had around it. So the second bit I want to touch on is, and it's something because it's just causing me anguish right now, is like cash constraints. So as we're scaling, we're having to buy all this stock, and we've done a fundamental error of where we've overbought stock. We had some really good opportunities pop up and we just had to take them. But then the pain is now when we're still trying to advertise, we're still trying to make sales at a peak period, and we're having to spend money on advertising, but then all our money's in the stock as well. So we're really cash constrained. And you can feel that because now suppliers being like, can I get more money? And it's tough because we're having to push some back, and it's hurting relationships. But it's definitely something learning for me. I think we overbought very much so in stock, kind of believing that maybe our sales would be higher, but I think the models we were using to assume stock buying were wrong. I think we got a bit ahead of ourselves. So, the new processes we're putting in place, such as the improved forecasts, and the change in the way payments were made. Previously, I delegated payments to the point where like we had like 10 people dipping into the cash flow, which was restrictive. And now we're just doing payment runs every Friday. So it's a lot better, I believe. And so hopefully, this is the most constrained it'll be right now. And then over the next 6 to 10 weeks, we should see ourselves come out the other side of that and build up a lot of cash reserves as we clear down this stock and as we see the rewards of all the advertising we've gone through. But for me, it was a big learning curve, and cash is king at the end of the day. Like, yes, making profit's all great, but if you're making profit and all of it's in stock, it can hurt you badly. And so yeah, going forward, I guess that's a learning for me, is that we need to have better systems in place, and I myself need to have better control over cash because it's hurt us badly. And I think it's one of those things you go through where you experience it when you're in this scale up. And like, don't get me wrong, at this point in time we probably could have took on more debt to fund it, but I really don't like doing that because A, debt's costly, but B, there's a few other things I want to do. Like, I want to start purchasing assets, and I'd rather have debt for those assets rather than debt for stock, which is short-term assets, because we're just flipping that. For me, it's been interesting, and as I touched on last week, I've now got way more intimate with the numbers. I've been applying my finance degree and my MAVs kind of literacy to understanding where we are financially, and I feel a lot more confident going forward than previously. Before, maybe I was a bit too trusting or delegated a bit too much those numbers for what someone should as a CEO in this crucial period of time. But yeah, that's a quick summary of where we're at. This should be a short one. I'm filming this episode kind of ahead of time because Erin, who edits and chops this all up, she's currently on holiday. So I appreciate everyone who watches. Maybe a bit more philosophical this week, but I'll catch up next week.